I'd made a lot of money and I'd invested wisely and all those sorts of things. So, I took a decision that I would open up my own business. Well, goodness gracious me, I changed from a tea lady and everybody sucking up to me to the fact that I was doing my own coffee and I was doing my own photocopying, and nobody sucked up to me.
Welcome to the Creative and Code podcast.
Welcome to the internet, my friend.
Brought to you by ID Digital Agency.
Kind of a big deal.
Dive into the dynamic world of digital marketing, creative design, and coding with top experts, latest trends, and actionable insights. Let's get inspired and innovate together.
It's showtime.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of Creative and Code. My name is Jay. I am Strategy Director at ID Digital Agency. Today we have an incredible guest. His name is Dennis Maddern. He operates Maddern Financial Advisors here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. And his business is all about providing expert financial independent advice to his customers and his clients, making sure that his decisions and his recommendations on what people do with their money is completely independent and not backed on people's commissions, which is a great thing to do. So if you are looking for financial advice here in Melbourne, go no further than looking up maddernfinancial.com.au. In the meantime, we're racing to the end of this year. A couple more podcasts that we'll have for you up in the coming weeks. And if you haven't realised, our podcasts do come out every Thursday at 2:00 Melbourne Standard Time. If you have any questions or comments, please put them into the comments section of this podcast wherever you are watching. And we're looking forward to even having some amazing new guests on in 2025. If you are interested in becoming a guest too, let us know. Send an email to j@iddigital.com.au and we'll see if it'll suit you coming onto the show at some stage next year. In the meantime, let's connect with Dennis at Maddern Financial.
You have my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
So thanks, Dennis, for coming in.
Pleasure, Jay.
Always good to see your face. And
Thank you.
2 weeks ago we did a podcast on yours?
We did a podcast with my company, and now it's like a quid pro quo. So we're doing it, which is good.
You've been running Maddern Financial for 22 years now.
Yes, correct.
Which is amazing. And before that, you're at Pacific Dunlop as a general manager.
Yes.
According to your LinkedIn, that's where we found that.
Yeah, good.
And I just wanted to understand. So obviously you're working as a general manager, moving into financial advice. What made the transition? What was it as part of your life that you went from working for someone to working for yourself?
Sure. I've worked in significant corporates. I was with Kodak for a number of years around the Kodak world, so Brazil, Chile, England, France, Germany. Then I was headhunted, Jay, so it's not a Seek.com thing, but an Egon Zender come and knock on your door and we want you with Pack Dun. Now, Pacific Dunlop was Olex, Ansell, Tyres, Batteries, Lawrence and Hanson, Burley, Schlesinger, Crosby, Holproof, Repco.
You've said that
huge
before.
Huge conglomerate, massive big company. And I was a general manager and I ran a business unit of 8,000 people, $500 million turnover, and did very well. But at the same time, I had 5 children, and I was never there because you had meetings in Sydney and Singapore and Hong Kong and various things, and you're looking at acquisitions and all that. It was a big corporate stuff, and I'd trained. A lot of my studies were all about big corporate stuff, not micro companies, but huge conglomerates. So I decided that I needed to be more of a dad and more of a husband. So it was a lifestyle decision. I'd made a lot of money and I'd invested wisely and all those sorts of things. So, I took a decision that I would open up my own business. Well, goodness gracious me, I changed from a tea lady and everybody sucking up to me to the fact that I was doing my own coffee and I was doing my own photocopying. And nobody sucked up to me. I was just sort of there. So again, similar to your story, started off really small.
So was it just yourself or you had some others?
I had like 1 or 2 people and then just, built it up from there. Never purchased a fee in our life. We've just sort of knocked people off, if you like. So on the accounting division, we've just, sort of picked them up like that. On the advice division, we've just picked them up like that. So it's all organic growth, and we run very tight metrics, probably better than Macquarie Bank. We have a 30% expenses, 30% salaries and 40% EBIT. So our EBIT is Very, very, very good. And if
Well
we
done.
were publicly listed, you'd want to get in on it.
Yeah, you'd be investing immediately.
There you go.
No, that's fantastic. And so, over 22 years, you started with about 2 or 3 people, and now I think you're around the 10 to 15 or so.
No, we're about 25.
25.
25, yeah.
Wow. So you have grown it quite rapidly. And initially, were you just selling not selling because you don't really sell because you don't earn commission? That's one of the big things about Maddern. Is that you're not doing commission-based sales, or you're not referring to people who you make money off anyway. So just tell us a little bit about why you're unique and why you've done what you've done.
Well, we've got significant points of difference. I think one significant point of difference is to have accounting and advice in the one room. If you have an investment person in me in Malvern and an accountant in Carlton, well, really, we should speak. We don't. I already own an accounting firm. The person in Carlton may very well have a deal going with AMP or somebody else. So the loser in the equation is the client. So we have an integrated position of that within one room. So you come in, there's your chartered accountant, there's your investment person. We also have a banking arm. So it's this total holistic approach. But ASIC has a definition called independent. Now, you can't get away with certain terms like, I'm independently owned, but so is Baskin & Robbins, the ice cream shop, independently owned, but it doesn't mean you're independent. Also, non-aligned doesn't mean anything as well. Section 923A of the Corporations Act has a very specific definition. No commissions, no fund-based pricing, funds under management. So if you have 20 million and someone has 10 million, I'm going to charge the 20 million guy double what I charge the thing. Yet the 20 million guy may be really low maintenance and only wants to see me irregularly.
Yeah.
The $10 million guy or the $1 million guy might be a pain and high maintenance. So we're fee for service. So if you want to have fortnightly meetings, we'll charge you quite a bit, even if you've got a small amount. So it's not fund-based pricing. It's no commissions. No kickbacks, but it's also soft dollar. So it's not just insurance commissions and management expense ratio commissions and SMA commissions. It's also no trips to the tennis. Now, I'm invited constantly to the tennis, to the cricket. Won't you come out to the flower drum? How about Vlados for lunch?
And you don't accept them?
I don't accept them because, again, there's no free lunch. It's a seduction. It's an inducement. It's about trying to get closer to me for me to give them business. Heck no. I'm there for the client and the client only. And that's what the Royal Commission has said about the banks, that really the bank makes the product. Take NAB MLC. They would make a life insurance policy. Then there was a group of advisors in the various branches that would then flog that product and win a trip to Honolulu or get a commission. And so he said, this is the Royal Commission, he said, you're not an advisor, you're a downstream salesperson. So there is something about being able to say, because doctors are independent, lawyers are independent, dentists are independent, architects are independent, accountants are independent, financial advisors, most of them are on the take. They are conflicted. We are Section 923A of the Corporations Act, 100% independent as defined by ASIC. And there's only about 20 or 30 or so truly independent advisors in Australia. Not companies, actually people. But if financial advice, Jay, is ever to become a profession, we've got to get rid of the contamination and the sweetheart deals and the inducements and the soft dollar commissions they're called. So long answer to a short question.
No, I mean,
That
it sounds good to be independent.
They're two of our big points of difference. The issue of the integration of accounting and advice and the integration of being independent.
And I think from what that means then, from a client's perspective, is that you're not going to recommend a product because you get an incentive. You're going to recommend a product because it's best for the client
It's
and
in
their
their
situation.
best interest. Yeah. And we've found, as trite as it might sound, we've found that the client notices that and they'll refer their neighbour, they'll refer their cousin, they'll refer their brother, sister, their mum and dad, or their children if they've just graduated universities, etc. And because they feel that we are acting in their best interest and genuinely so. Whereas previously, when commissions were done by a lot of advisors, they would what's called churn you. They'd say, oh, look, this life policy we've got with AIA, I'm not happy with AIA. I think we should move to MLC. And what that meant, you got a upfront commission of 115%. So if your insurance policy was $1,000, the advisor would be getting $1,150.
Wow.
But then in year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, until you get rid of the policy, you only get a 22% commission compared to the 115%. So they would do that.
So it's in their interest to keep you hopping around.
Yeah, it's called churning. They do that for 2 or 3 years, and then they'd come with a cock and ball story and say, oh, look, we need to move you to this one, which means another 115% commission. So that still goes on to a certain extent, although the government's levelled out 66% and 22%. But the way the companies now seek to seduce advisors is, look, come to this function. We've got a golf tournament on at Royal Melbourne, and we've got lunch
value
at Blood
versus
Oz.
a
Yes,
kickback. Yeah.
There's soft dollar commission. So you've got to try and avoid all of that.
I see. So by you being invited to the flower drama, whatever it is, that's kind of like being paid to, and I think you then feel like you're encouraged to go with them for anything.
It's an inducement. It's sort of like a social obligation of sorts. And, they will befriend you, and then they'll suddenly appear at Christmas time with a bottle of wine and a hamper and,
Well, what happens if you do get a present like that? What do you do with it?
Oh, we give it away to staff.
Right.
But you are not going to get any traction with me if you try and do that. The preservation of our independence is just so important. And ASIC's really big. If you're on all these inducement cycles and you claim to be independent, they'll say, well, look, we've done a mystery shopper on you and you're not independent, my friend.
Yeah.
So we're not going to lose that status at all.
And that's why I guess your brand tagline is a safe pair of hands,
Yes.
because you really are looking after the client. It's not looking after your back pocket as a financial advisor.
We're in a certain demographic. We put the firm in Malvern. We looked at St Kilda Road. We looked at Collins Street. We looked at Moray Street. We looked at all these sort of places. And we decided, no, we're going to put it in, Burundar and Stonington. Now, next to Brighton and maybe Sandringham, you can't get better postcodes. So we open up at 7 a.m. so we can catch people on the way into work for signatures or dropping documents off or popping in for a meeting or whatever, or on the way home. So we've tried to do that. Because
you're right next to the freeway too. It's just a quick exit
and we
off that
catch then Wheelers Hill, we catch Mount Waverley, we catch Glen Waverley, Burwood, all of that. And we're 10 minutes from the city on the freeway and the Toorak Road exit. So it's really a good situation. So
and walking into your office as well, it's just very quiet. It's very, you can easily focus on what you need to do in there. You've got AM radio pumping.
Well, we've got
to
FM,
a little bit.
So thank you very much. And it's
it sounds like AM.
103.5.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
The ABC FM gets a bit boring and so forth with Shostakovich in the afternoon. But we stick with 3MBS, and it is a constant right throughout the day. And it's really this gentle music, and it's a client came in the other day and he said to us, this was like this week, and he said, oh, it's so serene in here. I said, your life could be serene too, but you choose not to have it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
We do. So
you just need a bathhouse around the corner and clients would never leave, would they?
That's right. That'd be very good.
Yeah, good. So I just wanted to go back. So at Pacific Dunlop, the reason you left was family and spending more time. Obviously, then getting in and running your own business is a very time-consuming thing. I think you've had all your kids work for you at some point in time as well?
Work would be an exaggerated term. They've certainly attended on salary. There's no question of that. And come the 15th of each month, because we pay monthly, so our bookkeepers don't have to do fortnightly or weekly things. They just do once a month. Yes, they've certainly been there ready to receive their
you should
payment.
pay them in cash so they have to come in every week.
That's right. I'd like to per diem, like per day or something. But they all have. I've still got a couple of them doing very, very well.
And one of your sons as well, he worked for you for quite a while, and he's then gone and done what you did.
That's
he's
right.
established
He's
his own
opened up his own
plan.
business called Drakkar Financial. He's into Vikings and things, and apparently Drakkar's a Viking ship, so he's got pictures of that.
He's into
but
karate
he runs
and things
a very
too.
good business. He's third Dan black belt in karate. He's very very good, and the others are all interested and working. But I think I have made it easy for them. And this is always one of the problems of parenting, as you well know. Particularly if you've come up hard. I was the son of a wharfie from Brunswick. Mum never had very much. And so I've tried to make it easy for the kids, and I think I've softened them a bit. But I adore them.
That's the thing. Like, you want to give them what you can and, put them into correct positions and, there's been some moments where you've been able to provide them with work, like with Chelsea doing the marketing side of it, and then Zach with some of it too. Yeah, you can see that you've put a bit of effort in, and whether or not that gets taken up and appreciated, it's hard for any dad or mum to do it that way too. But they can be part of it.
Without getting too much into parenting and and so forth, there is this unconditional love I think you've got to give children and a spouse. You've got to give them unconditional love. They can give you brain damage every now and then, as you might give them brain damage every now and then.
Yeah.
But I think the goal is that they have multiple chances, and all your hope is that it's 2 steps forward, 1 back. And I think there comes a point, maybe it's in their 30s, maybe it's in their 40s, where, I don't know, the light bulb switches on and they say, oh, okay, I actually need
what have I done with my
work
life?
full time. I actually need to do that. But they've all got good qualifications, degrees and everything. So they've not wasted their time. But, would I like to see them a little bit more, get up and go? Yes, of course. But it's interesting, you go back to Pompeii, and when Vesuvius put the molten lava on Pompeii, there's graffiti there saying, oh, what's wrong with this young generation? They're lazy, they're lounging around, how are we going to maintain the Roman Empire? Every generation has said that what's wrong with this current crop of
Are we
young
all getting
ones?
lazier
That's
every
That's
generation?
right.
Well, it seems that way too, like getting more into the digital side of things too. Like when mobile phones came out, it meant that you were more accessible, which meant you didn't have to drive very far, and you had more time to yourself. And then, internet browsing became something on your phone, and then computers were meant to make you connect more, and it's actually just made us a lot more busy rather than actually slow things down. And how do you find that with what you do? Have you embraced the technology that's out there, or do you have to really?
Oh, we've tried very hard. We do Google Meet, we do Teams, we do Zoom for virtual meetings and so forth. We have VoIP for our phones.
No fax machines
Telstra.
anymore. Yeah,
no fax machines. No more pages. So
I never had one of those
on their side.
Yeah.
And so on. So we try very much to do that. We don't want to be a trendsetter. We want to see that it's been tested and then we'll adopt it.
I think too with
you
your
and your
client
firm
base,
have been very helpful with us as well about technology. We understand the importance now of websites. We understand the importance of digital marketing and all of that. So we're very appreciative.
No, absolutely. And I think that really, it comes down to your target audience and what are the things that they're using, or what are they comfortable in doing too. Some of them might be more comfortable being face-to-face. Some of them are more than happy to be on a Zoom or a Teams call. Yeah. Are you finding that's shifting quite a lot, that people are more comfortable just to contact you from home or from their workplace?
They are, but we sort of ensure that the first meeting they actually physically come in. And that's a test of their bona fides to a certain extent. If you're prepared to come from Black Rock or Eltham and physically come and sit with me in Malvern, then that's a show of appreciation and that you are serious about a consultation. There's no cost to that and no advice either. Then later on, if they become a client, then we're happy to do Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, whatever. But in every meeting, and I've had a few government people phone up and say, oh, look, I want a Zoom meeting. Well, not a problem for the second, third and fourth meeting.
Great.
All first meetings face-to-face, because if you're going to invest your children's education, your lifetime superannuation payments, and all of your investments with me and have our accounting division do your tax, you ought to want to actually meet me.
Yeah,
and
know who you are.
I may have a two-bob business, with walls falling down. You need to come and have a sniff and meet us and have a look around and make sure that you're satisfied with us, because you actually may not like us. There may be a chemistry misfit. So I think you should meet first. So we've found that a tried and true method, Jay.
I think it's important to have that, and I think it's great, even if it is a supplier or someone that's, you don't know who they are, having them come in is a great way to do it. Initially for the first one, we try and do that here too, and that's why we spend quite a lot of money on our offices and make sure that it's welcoming and all that for the staff. We've seen a high retention rate not only of our of our team, but also our clients, because they appreciate the effort that we go into with that too. So I can see, there is some things going on there between us.
Great.
So in terms of acquisition, we were talking about how people find out about Maddern, and obviously look up Financial Planner Melbourne on Google. You're 1, 2 or 3 position, and we've spent a lot of time doing that too. But recently, you've moved into cinema advertising. And these are the independents again, funnily enough, there's independent cinemas that you're advertising on, and you're seeing some really good results from what I hear. So, what made you even try cinema advertising, and how has that helped to get more clients?
We've tried certain segmented advertising. We've sponsored medical conferences. We've sponsored dental conferences. We've done magazine and periodical sponsoring. We've looked at sporting associations and sponsorships and things like that. And then we've done radio and so on.
And you've been on the radio in the past as well?
Been on the radio, had a spot there, Money Talk, which is a familiar term now.
Yep.
And we've done all of that. So we're quite initiative seeking, if you will. We'll try it. And then we thought, well, okay, because when I'd go along to the cinema, I would see, a Bendigo and Adelaide Bank ad, or I'd see, the local politician, and I thought, well, there are apparently 30-second ads, so we might try that. So we do that, and we're happy with that, but it's also part of a total expenditure for our advertising, and we do magazines and different things. So it's a total.
And I think too, your target audience is those that do like to watch a bit of a posh movie every so often at an old independent, classic cinema for that matter too. So they're sitting there and they love, most of us oldies. I'm getting quite old now. I'm in my 40s, but it's you sit there and you want to watch every single trailer, watch every single ad, and I think the cinema ads are quite consuming. They're quite, you have to watch it. There's nowhere else to look. So, on people's mobile phones, you can easily swipe up, or if it's a TV ad on the TV, then you can go off and grab yourself a drink, but you're locked in there. And I think it's a great way that you can get that messaging across.
And look, I also try and get everywhere early. I came here today to get early, and I get early to a cinema and I get a choc top. And I get
What's your flavour?
Vanilla with chocolate on top.
Yeah.
I don't want boysenberry and things like that, just vanilla.
Yep.
And then I will sort of get there and as a consequence you see the ads. But also we have the experience. It needs to be good, it needs to be bouncy, it needs to be energetic. So Churchill once said, it's not often what's said, people will remember how it was said. So sometimes people can't quote Churchill, but they talk about him speaking in cadence, like a rolling thunder when he'd talk. And so when I try and communicate, it is a feeling as well as the verbals, because the verbals are sometimes easily forgotten. But people that have met me would say, look, your passion is phenomenal.
Yeah, it comes out.
Yeah, and I can see you're committed to this. Now, then it's a leap of faith for them to say, well, I can trust him, or I don't trust him. But that's why face-to-face meetings are important.
Yeah.
And then they can say, yeah, look, this guy will fight a war for me. He'll fight a Stalingrad.
And that's the thing, like if that's another point of difference, if people are shopping for their next financial planner or during retirement, they're looking at that. If you say, no, this is the way that we work, you're standing out from the pack straight away, which is quite good.
Yeah, no,
Going back
two steps forward, one back, Jay.
And going back to the choc top too, I've got a bit of a tip, because when I was young, I used to work in the cinemas.
Yeah.
If you have your choc top, bite off all the chocolate, dunk it in a small popcorn, and you have the sugar and the sweet coming through.
Oh, gee. Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, it'll change your life.
Oh, Jay. That's excellent. That's probably the most notable thing today.
No, exactly. So, in terms of the future with what's happening with Maddern, looking at how, cinema, website, word of mouth, I think are the core things that work for you. How do you see things changing? Like, obviously, you're now got a podcast happening, so you're on multi-platforms, you're on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon as well, podcast. Lots going on to get that word of mouth or get that exposure out there. AI, how are you integrating that into the system yet?
We're doing our best, but we don't want... AI can be, because I, as a guy that's studied a lot and got a few qualifications, I've asked a lot of professors who are clients, can you pick an AI thesis or report? Oh, absolutely. And there are ways now to be able to do it. So we don't want this narrative where Google sort of gets to the point of where they're smart enough to say, that's AI. So I think there's always got to be that degree of personalisation. We'll use it for certain things, but when we want to approach somebody with sincerity and genuineness, then I think we need to put a bit of our heart and a bit of our personal feeling and a few personal anecdotes which relate to our lives and the history of the firm, which, God bless their little cotton socks at AI, they just cannot do it.
No,
they're robotic.
And that's the thing, it's called generative content for a reason. It's generated, it's not human. No. And I think that when you do things like, financial planning, which is a very personal thing, it must have a personal approach to it. But I think, attracting new clients, writing blog articles, glossaries, the things that, we've been doing with you, create that content, but then put your Maddern layer on top of that as well. So, and then business structure. I just wanted to talk about that too. So you've obviously you started up the business and then Lisa's come on. How long has Lisa been working with you too?
Lisa's been with us now for about probably 15 years.
Well, okay. So she started pretty early, 7 years or so after that. So you're the Batman, she's the Robin kind of set up on how this works, I guess. I know she wouldn't like me saying that.
No. Look, she's an equity partner in accounting and we'll give her that status. One of the big points of difference, Jay, and we cover this in one of our podcasts with Lisa, is that typically accounting firms will have a partner that's just lost the pace a bit. Tax Act's getting a bit tough for them, they're getting a little older and various other things, and they look for, what are we going to do with old Jack? And sometimes they'll create a license for financial planning and they'll put Jack in charge of that. But it's always a little appendage. It's never mainstream, which means that the values of the firm are still very much accounting values. And accountants, again, we need them. They start off with like a mess, a shoebox of receipts type analogy, and they turn it into a beautifully crafted document, sign here and you'll be okay with the ATO. Financial planning is the reverse. We start small. Where do you want your kids to go to school? How much money do you and your wife want to have in retirement? Do you want to help the kids with a 20% deposit when they're ready to buy a house and so forth? Do you want to pay the HECS debts for them? What do you want to do? So we start with small acorns and we expand. And I think that expansionary orientation is better. So we actually sat down as part of a strategic plan because many clients would say, look, you guys are terrific. You get back to me, you return phone calls, you're available, and so forth. My accountant, golly, I'd be lucky to get him or her any time, and it takes for years to get a tax return done. So, is there are you going to ever do tax? Well, Lisa was a client, so I said, how much, you're getting paid, and I added a couple of noughts on top of that, and we hired her, and then we've just built it up. As I've said, we've never bought a fee.
Fantastic. So you saw something in her.
We actually created an accounting firm from scratch. Now that probably is very rare. Normally it's the accounting firm creating financial planning. So it's culturally very, very different. So our accountants are very tax planning proactive because a good accounting firm can make a lot of money with BAS statements. Your firm, you've got to do BAS statements. The money rolls in for the accountant like the Mississippi River. It just rolls in. So, but do they sit you down in April and May and say, Jay, personally and for the firm, what can we do to minimise your tax? You're going to have to twist their arm or even, stick them in the eye to get them to do it. Well, that is critical for us.
That's good because you're kind of auditing each other.
The values of financial planning sort of infiltrating accounting rather than the reverse. So we're very happy with what we've got. And we've got a really good team. And Lisa is a brilliant accountant.
So I think too, having that financial advice on the accountants and having that in the system means that you're not having to share reports or documents or access or whatever. It's all just through one company, which makes it simple. Normally we do a speed round, which is a bunch of questions. If you were going to travel into the past or into the future, which one would you choose to do?
The past.
And what would that be? How far back would you go? You probably want to see some famous people doing some speeches. Winston Churchill.
Look, I think so. I've got a real sense of history. Churchill once said that if you don't recall or recognise history, then you're doomed to repeat it. So you've got to learn from it. So to me, I think the values. I also have a strong faith, so I'd probably go back to the days of Christ, and and understand that. And I think certainly back to Socrates and Plato, and I'd want to really try and understand, because I think we miss out on the classics. I don't think human persons have changed that much. There are prodigal sons. There are different personalities all over the
wants and
place.
needs
I mean, nothing's changed. I mean, we look back at medieval times. They're the same: introverts, extroverts, this personality, that personality. So why do we need to reinventing the language to understand what the nature of human beings are? It's been known a long time. So I'd like to go back to those beginnings and try and get a more of a core understanding. So I'd probably go back in the path. I'm not afraid of the future where they're all flying around in little, James Bond type
cars
through the air.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Oh, that'd be something for you to. I'd love to see you do.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
I'm happy with electric cars that take off as well and fly.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with all of that. But I think I'd probably want to go back into the past and understand core values in the human condition.
Do you prefer working with numbers or working with art or creative?
I think both. Luckily, I am a right-brainer by nature, this creative type, but I also understand numbers. But I think without painting that Rembrandt, without painting that canvas of where we're going, where on earth are we going, and then we can analyse quantitatively certain parts of that. But if you don't know where you're going, as they say on Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So you've got to get that. So I'm lucky in the sense that I'm naturally right brain, and I've taught myself a lot of numerical things.
No, great. And quotes too from Winston, which is good.
I'm not bad.
Coffee and tea? Coffee or tea?
Look, a bit of both. I'm big I'll have coffee in the morning, but I won't have it past 10 a.m. And then I'll go to green tea or
keep away the
oolong
caffeine
and so forth.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I might go to non-caffeine tea. Green tea's got quite a lot of caffeine, and so does oolong. But you can go to barley tea and other things in the evening, and I do hydrate very well because I play a lot of sport.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on tennis. We might have to come back and talk a little bit more about your tennis career as well.
Well, Dennis and tennis. And,
Dennis the Tennis Minute. Yeah, no, I like that. What's one snack that you have while working?
Look, I must say one of my great weaknesses is chocolate, dark chocolate, and I'm a Hague's man.
Okay.
I really like that.
Yeah.
And I prefer Hague's to Lindt or Cocoa Black to Lindt because I'm not going to fund a Swiss company where the profits return to Zurich. I just as soon have the profits return to Adelaide in the case of Hague's or Cocoa Black in the case of Melbourne. So I'm very patriotic and I try very hard to buy Australian things. I mean, our console that we run our pod is Australian made, not overseas made. So I do my darndest with that. We... some of the best investments are either with ING on bank accounts and things or Macquarie. Well, Macquarie is an Australian bank. It's headquartered in Sydney. The profits return here. It's Australia's Goldman Sachs. ING is Dutch at the end of the day, and the profits return to Holland. Well, I'm not funding that. So we do our best.
Wow, so you're looking to such detail about just a little bit of chocky.
Absolutely, and I will, to me it's, everything, if I can do it, is Australian made or at least Australian owned. So I try my best because if we don't support it, then, it's same thing with olive oil, Cobram Estates, Red Island, balsamic vinegar is now being made in Australia. The cheeses, we'd never have had Brie and Camembert if it wasn't for King Island cheese or Tasmanian. And if we don't support them, Jay, then we go back to Danish cheeses, and why should we buy something from Denmark?
Exactly. Even though you might have seen in the paper as well, Lindt chocolate's come under siege over the last couple of days because they've found that there's metal in the chocolate as well, small parts, because they've been getting the chocolate. They've been saying it's been sourced, within Brazilian farmlands or whatever, but no, it's been sourced elsewhere. So they're under a bit of fire. So
we try and
hopefully
do
local
our
chocolate.
Best. Even my coffee, I try and have. I do beans in my Jura, my Roger Federer Jura machine, and so a J6 I think it is. I think Roger has J8 I think it is, and so I have that. But again, I get Vittoria, Lavasa, but they're Australian owned, and so I'll try and get their beans, or Harris, Australian owned. So anyway, Enough of my propaganda.
No, that's the chocolate
I do my
question.
best.
Yeah, it's meant to be a quick question, but that's fine. How many hours per week do you work?
About 50.
That's pretty reasonable.
It is.
Considering
I
what
used
you
to
are.
work more, but I've now got really good staff that I can delegate. I can get away from the office to come and do this, and the place is not going to collapse.
No,
and so
exactly.
forth.
Well, the amount of times that you do your tennis, you're all over the world during the year as well, playing your seniors, and you're ranked pretty highly. Do you want to just mention what your rank is at the moment?
Look, I was 12 earlier this year in May. That slipped a bit because I didn't keep the same point level. Instead of making the final, I lost in the semi or something. So if you don't maintain your points on a same tournament last year, you lose it.
Summer or winter?
I think one of the reasons I live in Melbourne is because I actually like the variety. My daughter's in Queensland. I find it an African heat in Queensland. I find it too hot, too humid. Melbourne is perfect. So I'd probably skew towards a fall or an autumn day. No wind at Kooyong.
Yep.
No wind.
It does get windy in Melbourne.
Start off with a sweater or a half sweater.
Yep.
Take it off as you get underway.
Yep.
Still able to wear shorts. A beautiful day.
Because you could probably, in a tennis match, 90 minutes or so, it could be pouring, you'd have the zinc out because it's hot again. That's the Melbourne weather that it's unpredictable.
It is.
So you never know what's going to happen.
It is, but no, I wouldn't trade Melbourne. I actually like it because the cool change, it can be scorching hot and then all of a sudden the wind shifts from the south, comes in off Tasmania, and it's just absolutely terrific. And in some places, like in Europe and the Middle East, you don't get that, and in the United States, you don't get that.
So last question, if you could go anywhere right now on a destination holiday, where would you go?
London.
That was quick. What's there for you?
I think the history of the English-speaking peoples. I mean, at the end of the day, England's given birth to the United States, given birth to Canada, given birth to New Zealand, given birth to Australia. You look at Asia and you say, respectfully, what are the least two corrupt countries? Singapore and Hong Kong. They've got one common denominator, Mother England. Mm-hmm. I think England's given the world not just language, but given the world common law, given the world democracy and parliament. Arguably the Greeks created democracy, but the British have the parliamentary system, and I think the British don't have the money the Americans do in the sense to create some things, but there's this thing at the moment of the mirror and the light, which is about Henry VIII, and the British, I think, make stage plays and movie in the Royal Shakespeare Company and Lord Byron and Charles Dickens and Shakespeare. I think to me, you could never lose interest just running around there and, Churchill's war bunker, and I just amuse myself in London without any problem.
There's only one problem with London is the, during the November, December period, it's 3 o'clock, pitch black.
It is. It is, but again, I've had many a time I've had Christmas in Melbourne, then I've left on Boxing Day and I've gone to London, and the lights are twinkling, and it's snow, and it's the fog like Brigadoon, and you've got all the Christmassy sort of aspects to it, and then comes the Harrod sales.
Yeah, it's like Love Actually, if you've seen that movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Or Bridget Jones.
And look, I think occasionally, I wouldn't want to live there. I'm Australian. I'm very proudly Australian, but I wouldn't want to live there. But look, if you said, where would you like to go? I've been to Dubai, I've been to South America on tennis tournaments, I've been here, been there, spent 12 years in the United States studying and travelling around. So I've done all of that. But London, there's so much I haven't even seen. I've never been to Stonehenge. I've never seen the Roman ruins. I've never really given Bath a lot of time, which is this little village that was created around Roman baths. So much to see. And then totally. Again, you can say there are other places like that, and there are. But for the English-speaking world and with a family name of Maddern, I don't know, there's a connectedness to London.
Yeah, London's quite good. I went there about 3 or 4 years ago. Tried to go to the beach. It's all stones and stuff.
It's shocking beach. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The people are amazing. There's always a yarn being told in a pub somewhere, especially if it does get dark at 3 o'clock. Everyone's off to the pub and they've got all the games and things that are going on. So yeah, my age, everyone's having a bit of a laugh, and there's always some warm beer flowing. So
and it's so cosmopolitan. I mean, you can hop on Ryanair and say, if you were with your wife, you could say, well, look, let's have lunch in Paris.
Yeah,
you can
$30,
go on
$40 flight.
The train under the
Done
channel.
that too, yeah.
Or you could get, look, we might even go for dinner tonight in Rome.
Yeah.
Off you go for about $40 across on Ryanair or something. So the convenience of it, it's just a little island, but if you think of the impact that England's had on the world, and it's just this scrubby little island, and I think it's amazing what they've accomplished.
Yeah, totally. No, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in, Dennis.
Pleasure, Jay. Absolutely pleasure. And we enjoy working with you very much.
I'm looking forward to another couple of years on it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Creative and Code podcast.
That's all, folks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it as inspiring and entertaining as we did. Remember, there are plenty more episodes to explore, so make sure you keep listening for more creative insights and coding tips. A big shout out to our amazing sponsors and the team at ID Digital Agency for making this podcast possible. Got a story to share or want to be a guest on our show? We'd love to hear from you. Send us a 2-minute or less audio clip to creativeandcode@iddigital.com.au. Suggestions, ideas, or just want to say hi, we're all ears. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, stay creative and keep coding.